Let me read to you a passage from the first chapter of St. John's Gospel, verses 1 to 18. It's the Gospel for Mass during the day on Christmas Day, Year B. St. John writes, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. Through him all things were made. Without him nothing was made that has been made. In him was life, and that life was the light of all mankind. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. There was a man sent from God whose name was John. He came as a witness to testify concerning that light, so that through him all might believe. He himself was not the light. He came only as a witness to the light. The true light that gives light to everyone was coming into the world. He was in the world, and though the world was made through him, the world did not recognize him. He came to that which was his own, but his own did not receive him. Yet to all who did receive him, to those who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God, children born not of natural descent, nor of human decision, or of a husband's will, but born of God. The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. We have seen his glory, the glory of the one and only Son, who came from the Father, full of grace and truth. John testified concerning him. He cried out, saying, 'This is the one I spoke about when I said, He who comes after me has surpassed me, because he was before me.' Out of his fullness we have all received grace upon grace. For the law was given through Moses, grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. No one has ever seen God, the only Son, who is in the bosom of the Father. He has made him known." That's from John chapter 1, verse 1 to 18. We are led to think of Christ, who is the beginning. What do I mean? Well, it is commonly said that the majority of people believe in God, even in secular countries of the West. Surveys that involve batteries of questions administered to very large samples seem to confirm this. Still, one cannot but wonder what it means when one sees, for instance, the singularly low practice of public worship. What is God for such persons? The cultures of the ages have given rise to myths to explain what happens in the world, and rites are gradually formed to ensure that what occurs is favourable. A whole variety of factors account for religious beliefs. We are prescinding here from divine revelation. People need an explanation for life and its conditions, and unseen beings provide an account. The institutions of religion also are a source of comfort and peace to the heart, which longs obscurely for God. One's religious education is a factor, as is a conducive religious environment. But all up, one can easily imagine the modern-day child asking his parents if he or she believes in God, for his teacher and his friends do not, and being told, "Well, dear, yes, I do, but what difference does it make?" For a great number, God is but a vague explanation, or a recourse which occasionally brings benefits. While the religious instinct in man is an abiding foundation, it has been seriously weakened by the profound secular assumption that the world can, does, and must stand on its own 2 feet. If there is a God, he is but an initiator. Once initiated, the world thereafter functions by the power of its own inherent laws, though these may be God-given. The great question of the radical insufficiency of the world's very existence does not enter the train of popular secular thought. While people may look on God as the beginning of things, in the case of many, their understanding of the beginning is immensely superficial. God is indeed the beginning, but this means far more than people imagine. To take but one aspect of this, reflection on the very existence of the world and all that is in it shows that a beginning of this existence is needed continually. A beginning is needed not just to account for the origins of the world in time, but as the stay of the ever-recurring present moment. But let us restrict ourselves to the thought of God as the beginning of things in time, which is to say the cause of the historical beginning and dawn of the world. One of the fruits of the Enlightenment's discovery of the power and dignity of reason was its mistake of thinking that the only yardstick of truth was its demonstrability by reason. A proposition is true if it can be demonstrated by recourse to the senses and to rational proof. Thomas Paine, in his book The Age of Reason, published in its complete form in 1807, famously rejected revealed religion because it depended on the testimony of witnesses and authorities. By contrast, what was certain was a natural religion based on the sight of the universe and rational analysis of its manifest design. But of course, a religion based entirely on reason was open to radical challenge by reason. And so it was that during the 19th and 20th centuries, practical and theoretical agnosticism and atheism became a common part of Western culture. It was expressed in many philosophies which were exported along with Western secular culture. Atheistic communism had its origins in Germany and England. What this has meant is that mere scientific method has come to hold the field, and science has led the search for an account of the beginning of the world. Now, there is nothing wrong with this. Indeed, it is good if the scientific method does not regard itself as the only player on the field. But it often does, and it gets a little laughable. While the Big Bang is generally accepted at this point of time as the origin in time of the universe, the obvious question is, what about before the Big Bang? What was there then? And how did the Big Bang come about? All sorts of proposals are made, generally positing some other process, the origins of which have still to be accounted for, as does the Big Bang. In due course, some other hypothesis may become fashionable and better able to deal with current scientific and mathematical difficulties, but the business ahead will still be to account for the very beginning in time of the universe. The scientific method will not be able to cope with it, but that is the legacy of the Enlightenment's secular reason. As a matter of fact, God has revealed to us what there was in the beginning, which is to say, before the foundation of the world, Ephesians chapter 1, verse 4. He is the beginning, and the prologue of St. John's Gospel tells us about it. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. Through him all things were made. Without him nothing was made that has been made. John chapter 1, verse 1 to 3. Marvel of marvels, the Word of God became flesh and made his dwelling among us. We have seen his glory, the glory of the one and only Son who came from the Father, full of grace and truth. John chapter 1, verse 14. He who is the beginning in every sense, the abiding beginning of all that is and shall be, the beginning of grace and truth, became man to take us to glory. Jesus Christ, the beginning and the wonder of the universe.